The other day on the website, I guess in your interview with Michael Silver, you had talked a little bit about Chase and Montez and just some of what you needed to see more out of them. What is it with Chase after watching over the bye week and all that? What are some of the things that jumped out to you that you need to see him do better?
I'd like to see him pay a little bit more attention, on the chipper. Just knowing that there's a guy there, hey, I'd love to see him run through that guy a few more times. Kind of set the tone and tempo instead of reacting to him a little too much. And I think that's one thing that he'll get a little bit more comfortable with as he works on it. And it's something that he really never had to face. Now it's something that's a little more prevalent that he and Montez are going to see a little bit more of. And, and we've seen it. I mean, statistically, it's been shown that, these guys are seeing chips about 55, 56, 57% of the time on third down, 3rd and 7 to 10.
When a guy starts to try to do too much at that position, what are some of the other things that you're going to, aside from not handling that stuff well, what are some of the other things you might see out of him when he's trying to do too much?
He dives inside a little too much. I mean, and there's been a couple instances where you've seen the quarterback work out and get outside of where he was. And that's one of the things he and I talked about this today. And I said, look, you got to remember now, I know you want to make plays, but the thing you got to do is you got to be patient, be disciplined, and let the plays come to you. I went back and looked at all of his plays from last year. There's a whole bunch of them. And one of the things that was really prevalent was you could see him sticking to the edge a little bit longer before he ducked inside. And that's one of the things I'd love to see him get back to.
Is there going to be a little bit more burden on him with Montez out now?
There is. And to me, and again, he and I had a great conversation, is that now's when you really got to play your game. Now you really got to stick to being disciplined.
Ron, I know it's not a day to get into injuries per se with the official report on Wednesday, but just with Logan Thomas, I think there was some expectation that he might be able to back at practice this week, if that's still a possibility.
There is, and again, today was really the day to see where he is, see how he reacts tomorrow, and then we'll go from there. I mean, that was the plan all along going into last week, was each day during last week they were going to do something different and put a little bit more stress on him and everything. And then today we're going to put a whole bunch on him and then see how he reacts tomorrow. And then we'll come back and we'll see if he's ready for it. And if he is, then he'll practice on Wednesday.
And just for you, obviously the first 8 weeks have been in a lot of different ways. Just curious, like how getting the time off, we talk about it from guys healing up. How for you was just getting away to some degree to get you going back here for the last 9 games?
No, I'm fine. I mean, the hard part for me is, I get the reports from the coaches. I read those reports, and you read them in detail, and you look at what we see, what we think. And my big thing always when I get the reports from the other guys and their write-ups is I want to see if I'm close to what they're thinking, and that's important to me, is making sure we're all on the same page. We all see the same things, and we all believe and feel that we can do certain things and we can do certain things better. We need to change certain things, and that's the thing that I appreciated was, looking at these things and really seeing where everybody is in terms of how we feel about our football team and what we do. Now it's a matter of taking those things and making sure we're implementing them, making sure that we're following through on all the things that we talked about. We have to hold ourselves accountable to what we said, and I thought those meetings went well.
Beyond maybe some of the obvious spots like third down and red zone scoring, did any stuff stick out when you did these evaluations, looked at the first half of the year, like an area that once you got a chance to dive in deeper is something you want to really improve on?
Well, there are some things that can help us in the third down situations. We've got to be a little bit better on first and second downs. We had way too many third and shorts, and by that I mean, third and 2 to 3, 2 to 4s. I mean, that's going to allow for a lot of conversions, unfortunately. So we've got to be better at that on our first and second downs defensively. Offensively, for whatever reason, we have this tendency to as we're driving along and get into a second and short situation, to miss the opportunity to convert. And it's a couple of it is, hey, that's when we take our shot, obviously, and a couple of just the missed opportunity that we had. So those are little detailed things that would help us continue to sustain the drives. You look at some of the things that again, we talk about as the obvious on third downs. Well, there are some correlations to what we're seeing in terms of protection that have hurt us a little bit, and we've got to be better against those types of protections.
And then switching speeds here, coming out of the last Tampa matchup, going into the offseason, playoff appearance first year, the rebuild's kind of going this way, and then going into this Tampa matchup, less than a year later, same opponent, but just a lot different feel. Just how has the past couple months and this season maybe affected your mindset of where this team is going? Do you still?
Yeah, I still think this team's going to develop and grow and be what I believe it can be. Just because you take a step backwards doesn't mean you're not learning and growing. This has been tough. I agree. It's about winning, and there were high expectations. But and I know I repeat myself, but I did talk about maturity, and this is the result, in my opinion, of some things, of some of us not being able to handle certain situations, circumstances. And when it comes to maturity, it's when what you're supposed to do becomes what you want to do. That's when these guys are learning and growing. And so I try to observe, I try to watch, try to pay attention, and that's how I draw my conclusions on where I think we are and where I think we can be. And I'm not going to waver. I'm going to stick to the plan. I mean, if I wavered and didn't stick to the plan several years ago, my situation could have been different. But I'm going to stick to what I know and believe in what I'm doing. I at any point did I think this was going to be a one and everything's fine. There's a lot for us to do, and we're still working on those things.
Last thing on Chase, how do you decide when to maybe take those comments public instead of? There are times where you really back your guys and then going on the website.
I still back him.
I know, but
I still back him.
How do you decide to just make those comments public as opposed to keeping them just between you and him? What made you want to tell Mike Silver that and put it out there at that point?
Because he asked me the questions. They were very direct questions, and I was just being honest about it. And again, what he knows, what I've said, and it's pretty much, I think, what I've told you guys. I just amplified it a little bit more because Mike put it out there, but it's nothing different. I mean, if it was something that was way out there, I'd be concerned, but I wouldn't do that to him. This is just something I think that everybody sees and everybody understands. He's been tremendous about it. He works at it. That's the thing. I hope everybody understands that this young man is trying to play the best of his ability. He's seeing some things that are a little different for him, a little new for him, and we're trying to help him through those, learn and understand how to win in those situations. But it's not for lack of trying. This kid's busting a gut every day. He comes out and he comes to practice with the right attitude. He's come in and he's sat down and watched film with me, and we've talked about things. He's seen extra film with his position coaches. He and Montez work together on a lot of things. Now, with Montez being sidelined for a little bit, he's going to have to work with some other folks. But this young man's trying to do everything the right way, and it's just been hard. I mean, he's become a focus of a lot of the offenses we've played.
You met with Chase recently. Is this just a part of the evaluations over this past week, or was this just a separate conversation?
This was a separate conversation. There's a lot of pressure on him now with Montez out. I wanted to just talk to him about it and make sure he understands that he doesn't have to do something extraordinary. He's just got to go out and be him. I want him to come in with the right focus, the right mindset. I don't want him to come in and think that every play's got to be great. Every play's just got to be the play he's supposed to make. And he has that skill set and the ability to do it.
This is more of a general question because I genuinely don't know. But when players reach this level, are you expected to know certain skills, or are there things that can still be coached, can still be taught at this level? Like pass rushers?
Yeah, that's a good question, Nikki, because there are a lot of things that still have to be coached and still have to be taught. Things from one level to the other are completely different. It's a completely different style of play every week. You have a lot to learn and develop. A lot of these guys are only playing, they're there for 3 years. Some of them may only play 1 year. Now, I know he played all 3 years. But, back in the day, guys played 4 years of college football and then came into the league, and they had a lot of experience from having played 4 years of college football. A lot of guys really only become starters and only play 1 year, and the next thing you know, they're in the league, and if you take a guy high, now all of a sudden he's expected to play. I mean, I remember back in the day, you draft a guy in the first round, didn't necessarily mean he was going to be a starter. Now you draft a guy in the second or third round, everybody wants him to start, and there's a lot of pressure on these young men, and some of it has to do with the salary cap, because you've got to play, the draft picks, because the draft picks save you money because of the way the salaries are structured. So you play young guys. And for a young guy like him, with all the pressure on him being the second pick, the expectations, people say, oh, they're fair because you took him as the second pick. Well, yeah, they are. But at the same time, they're unfair because he's still growing and developing and learning too. Last year he won on tremendous talent and what he was learning. This year, people have adjusted to him and they attack him differently in terms of protections, and it's been tough. And again, these are hard knocks, these are hard lessons, but that's how you become better. If you champion those things and learn those things, you're going to have a good career. And I believe this young man's going to have a great career.
A separate question. William Jackson, how is he coming along? And the knee issue he was dealing with, was that something he was dealing with early in the year that might have hindered his play?
He did have a little bit of that issue through training camp. And then it happened again, I think 4 weeks ago in the game. And so we've kind of, he battled through it a couple times, and then it really, was something that he was struggling with. And so the trainers, came to me and we talked about it. And so we put him down and gave him a chance to heal up. And, going into the bye week, I think really added a little extra time. And now we see him, and he had a good day today.
Going back to the Chase thing, I guess how have you seen teams maybe protect against him differently? And then what are some specifics, if you can share any, about how you'd like to see him maybe show that progress that you'd like to see for the rest of the year?
Well, again, when you see people chipping, you see people bringing the tight end over that way, you see them turn the line to his direction sometimes. And then, the biggest thing, as I said, is you want to see him continue to play a little more disciplined and not worry about, trying to make so many plays. Let the plays come to him, and just continue to work at it, and he'll be fine.
This is also kind of a separate question, but when a team is going through a losing streak or maybe down a little bit, how important, if at all, is it for the people on the team to find a way to have fun at work, if that?
Well, I think that's a very good question, just because of the fact that it does get hard. It gets hard to come to work when you're not winning, and people look at you different, people act funny, and the truth of the matter is that's the nature of this game. Somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. How you handle it, how you work through it, how you work with it, how you live within it, that's ball, and I've been fortunate, I've been around this a long time, and I've gone through the both sides of it, and it is hard. But, somebody once told me it takes a lot of energy to be negative. It doesn't take a lot to be positive.
Sorry, and do you try to encourage that, or where do you?
Oh yeah, I try to encourage those guys to keep their heads up. I encourage those guys to have fun. I encourage those guys to work hard. I mean, it's the only way through this is to work hard. There's no quick fix. There really isn't. I know some people have pointed at some other teams. Oh, look at this team. Well, there are some other outside reasons why they're where they are in terms of players. So at the end of the day, guys, we have what we have, and we're going to work with it and do the best we can, because at the end of the day, these are the guys that got to develop.
How much can a single loss either go into shape the offseason or maybe reinforce what you guys wanted to change? How influential was the loss to Tampa of what you guys tried to do this offseason?
No, I get the question. No, but that wasn't the case with the Tampa Bay game. I thought the things that we did offensively, defensively, we had some opportunities, and that's probably the disappointing part, because we had our moments and we missed some opportunities. I think certain wins and certain losses can influence and impact the way you look at things going forward. But I don't think that was the case with that one. You know, we went through what we went through in the off season. You know, we did the things that we did with an intent. You know, again, nobody thought our quarterback situation would be what it would be, you know, after the first quarter. But I'm not saying that's the reason why anyways. You know, there's a lot of things we haven't done well that we did last year well. I mean, there's some things that we've got to get better at and some things that we are doing well that we have to magnify and make even better.
And you've had seasons that, you know, that you've played better the second half of the season, but there's also been a couple seasons that it hasn't clicked for
Yep.
that particular team. What stops a team from clicking in the second half of the season? What things are you trying to avoid?
Well, I think the big thing is not having a success. If there's somewhere along the line that you can have a success, then you can build upon it. You know, you can't win two in a row until you've won one, and that's the thing. You know, and I can recall a couple of years where things didn't go well in the second half of the season, and if you go and look at those, look at how many of those games were lost by 2 or 3 points. You know, where it came down to them making a kick at the end of the game. That's disappointing because, you know, I can think of the 2018 season, you know, going down the stretch, and there were 4 games in particular, you know, that if we could have converted a 2-point conversion, if we, you know, if they don't make the kick, they don't put themselves in field goal position, we win those games, you know, and now we're right there in the thick of the playoffs, and then we win another game and we're in the playoffs. I mean, that's the 2018 season was very similar to what you're saying. So, yeah, I've been through those and I understand that. But if you can get just the right win at the right time and build on it, you know, one becomes 2 and you build from that, then who knows what happens.